Over the course of Dragon Ball history, we've watched Vegeta and Piccolo fight side by side, oftentimes one-upping each other in terms of strength, but surprisingly, we've never seen the two of them fight each other. In fact, we haven't seen them train or spar together in all their years of knowing each other, so what if one day they finally decided to see who would come out on top? What if Ultra Ego Vegeta fought Orange Piccolo? How's it going, everyone? I'm InnovativeJdawg, and welcome back to yet another Dragon Ball What If. Today's scenario is not a complex or detailed story like what I've done in the past. Instead, I wanted to discuss a fun matchup that we most likely won't ever see for reasons that I'll explain in a moment. If Vegeta and Piccolo fought at their current levels, would it be completely one-sided, or are these two more evenly matched than what we give them credit for? Stay tuned until the end of the video to find out. Up until now, these characters have always been on different levels of power, completely outmatching each other to the point that it would be a one-sided stomp, and furthermore, they were always separated by the plot to the point that it was never even possible to fight in the first place. Take for instance the Saiyan saga where Piccolo was killed by Nappa before he even got the chance to fight Vegeta. We all know how that fight would have turned out, but could you imagine how cool it would have been to see Piccolo's giant form going up against Grade 8 Vegeta? Now that brings me back to the fact that these two have always been in different leagues of power. There's never been a moment where Vegeta and Piccolo were on equal footing because they've always outclassed each other with new transformations or new techniques. In the Saiyan saga, Vegeta was leagues ahead of Piccolo, but then by the time that they were on planet Namek during the fight against Frieza, Piccolo had trained with King Kai and fused with Nail, making him much stronger than the Saiyan Prince. Then we jump ahead to the Android saga where Vegeta first transformed into a Super Saiyan, outclassing Piccolo yet again, but only for a little while before Piccolo rejoined with Kami, making him the strongest fighter on Earth up until the Saiyans entered the hyperbolic time chamber. Then, yet again, Vegeta surpassed Piccolo through his graded transformations. Beyond the Cell saga though, it seemed like Piccolo just couldn't keep up with Vegeta and the other Saiyans as they kept discovering new Super Saiyan forms and eventually acquired God Ki that let them tap into even more transformations like Super Saiyan God and Super Saiyan Blue. For a while, Piccolo was left in the dust, relegated to being a backup character for several story arcs, having a few moments of glory here and there. But that all changed with Dragon Ball Super Superhero, where Piccolo not only had his potential unleashed like Gohan, but he acquired a new, unique transformation that elevated him up to the same levels as Goku and Vegeta. Thanks to the Orange Piccolo form, Piccolo is once again considered to be one of the strongest mortals in the series alongside Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, and even Broly, and through this new level of power that was given to him by Shenron, Piccolo can now fight against stronger opponents like Gamma 1 and Gamma 2, who were even said to be on the same level, or at least somewhat close, to the strength of both Goku and Vegeta. Keep in mind, while this could just be a statement made to hype up these characters as big threats, the superhero story does take place right before the end of Z, so stories like the Tournament of Power, the DBS Broly movie, the Moro arc, and even the Granola arc have already taken place, so Vegeta by this point has already got full access to Ultra Ego. If the Gamma androids are about as strong as Goku and Vegeta by this point in time, that's insane for Piccolo to go from losing to Gamma 1 relatively quick at the start of the movie to one-shotting him halfway through it. Granted, whether you want to believe that Piccolo made the comparison between the Gamma androids and the base forms of Goku and Vegeta, that's up to you. We don't know if he was talking about their base forms or their strongest forms, and maybe Piccolo doesn't even know about Ultra Ego, so it's hard to say how true this statement is. Realistically, we don't really know how much Piccolo knows about Goku and Vegeta's improvements since the last time we've seen them together, so it's all just a bunch of speculation on exactly how strong all of these characters are at this point in time. But that's what makes it fun to think about. There's some people who think that Ultra Ego Vegeta stomps Orange Piccolo, and then there's plenty of others who think that the fight would go the other way. I feel like these two are much closer to each other in terms of power than they've ever been throughout the franchise, and thanks to all the whack power scaling seen in Dragon Ball Super, it's tough to say who is stronger than who without actually seeing them fight. Cause believe it or not, but Dragon Ball Super is actually going back to that old style of Dragon Ball fighting where it's not just your form that defines how strong you are, it's your skill and technique. And boy, if these two actually fought, they both have insanely powerful techniques that could give them an edge over one another. Let's just kind of put it into perspective right now, starting with Vegeta since I haven't really talked about him yet. Of course, Vegeta does have access to Ultra Ego, which is a form made up of the Ultra Ego ability and the power of destruction. It's basically structured the same as Goku's Ultra Instinct, where this form is a representation of Vegeta's destruction training under Beerus, so it goes without saying that he has a pretty good understanding of the Hakai technique. Additionally, before Vegeta even decided to go down that path of destruction, we saw him travel to planet Yardrat during the Moro arc to learn Spirit Control, an advanced type of ki manipulation that lets him use techniques like instant transmission and forced spirit fission. We saw Vegeta use forced spirit fission to primarily pull out the stolen energy from Moro's body and send it back to their original owners, but we've also seen him manipulate some of that energy and turn it back against Moro. In a nutshell, forced spirit fission is a broken technique on particular opponents, and in this case, it would be very useful against Piccolo since it has the ability to undo fusions and absorptions. In the manga, Vegeta directly talks to Piccolo saying that he could pull out both Nail and Kami and revert him back to his regular old self, which if that were to happen, the fight would be over. Vegeta would wipe the floor with a defused Piccolo. But here's the thing, even though it's possible for Vegeta to easily take the win, I don't think he'd want to. In the past, Vegeta has gone out of his way to let villains power up to their strongest just so he could humiliate them and beat them down. He's just always underestimated how strong those opponents could actually get. In the Cell Saga, he had every opportunity to beat Semi-Perfect Cell, but he let Android 18 get absorbed because he wanted to test out his strength on Cell's perfect body, and we all know how that turned out. But it's not just Vegeta who does that. Goku's done the same thing to multiple opponents by letting them power up so he can beat them at their strongest. Sometimes it works out and humbles the opponent, but sometimes it's a weakness and leads to worse events, especially when it comes to Vegeta. If Vegeta and Piccolo fought, Vegeta wouldn't want to take an easy win because there's no reason to. The two of them are friends and allies, they aren't enemies. I could see Vegeta learning from his mistakes and using forced spirit fission if Piccolo was a bad guy, but if these two are just sparring for fun, Vegeta would want to work for the victory and earn it. As for Piccolo, he doesn't really have any new or broken techniques like Vegeta, but lately he's been bringing back a lot of old techniques that he forgot he even had. In the battle against Cell Max, Piccolo remembered that he was able to grow into his giant form, and by combining that with his orange form, he was able to hold off Cell Max until Gohan transformed into Gohan Beast. If Piccolo were to go up against Vegeta, he'd probably want to bring back all of these older techniques and do a lot of mixing and matching with them. In my eyes, he'd probably bring back the stretchy arms technique, the telekinesis technique to freeze Vegeta in place, and maybe he'd even bring back the multi-form technique to throw Vegeta off. Plus, he'd without a doubt mix his giant form with his orange form to tower over Vegeta, and I'd love it if he brought back the Hellzone Grenade. Could you imagine how cool it would be if a giant-sized orange Piccolo used Hellzone Grenade against a smaller opponent? Each of those energy spheres would be huge, like maybe even Spirit Bomb sized, and if they all came crashing in toward Vegeta at once, he'd be forced to use Hakai to destroy them all before they came into contact with him. That would be a really cool visual, and it could even lead into a cooler shot where Piccolo reverts back into his normal size while Vegeta is distracted, uses his multi-form technique, and then they all use their stretchy arms to wrap around Vegeta, just like how Doctor Strange used that lasso technique on Thanos in Infinity War. Then, on top of that, I could see Vegeta using instant transmission to disappear out of that situation and reappear behind each of the Piccolos, destroying them one by one until Piccolo is forced to freeze him with that telekinesis beam. There's a lot of cool ideas for both of these characters if they were to actually fight, because like I said, these two are closer in power than ever before, and both of them have techniques that could give them an edge over the other fighter. Of course, it's clear that Vegeta is a bit stronger than Piccolo thanks to his Ultra Ego form, and even if the two are close in power, he'd have a physical advantage over his opponent. Piccolo is capable of keeping Vegeta on his toes by mixing and matching some unusual techniques that Vegeta wouldn't know how to counter at first. Plus, since Vegeta wouldn't want to get a guaranteed win, and he'd want to work for it, he'd have to strategically think of ways to beat Piccolo and would be forced to think of ways to get out of situations like that gigantic Hellzone Grenade, or that multi-form stretchy arm chokehold. At the end of the day, this battle comes down to brains versus brawn, and it would be a very interesting fight to see, even if just for a few minutes. If I had to give a clear winner, Ultra Ego Vegeta would eventually come away with the victory because, like I said, he's still a bit stronger than Piccolo even with that boost given to him from the orange form, and even if he doesn't use those broken techniques like Hakai or Forced Spirit Fission, he still has access to them. If he really wanted to and he wanted to be petty, Vegeta could just defuse Piccolo for the victory and then refuse him together just to show his dominance. Then again, you never know, maybe Orange Piccolo has some hidden techniques under his sleeve that we just don't know about yet. Maybe he has some broken techniques of his own that we might see in the future, we'll just have to wait and see. And with that, we can end the what if battle there. Who do you guys think would win, and better yet, who do you want to win? Do you think Ultra Ego Vegeta would prove his superiority over Orange Piccolo? Or do you think Piccolo could pull out a surprise and take the victory for himself? Leave your comments down below and let me know what you think. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more Dragon Ball content like this. The more likes this video has, it really helps out the channel and lets me know that you want to see more videos like this. Thank you all so much for watching, and until my next video, I will be seeing all of you Dragon Ball fans later. See ya!